Yogi Berra once said that 90% of baseball is half mental. And yet, particularly with hitting, we spend as much as 95% of our time on mechanics. Welcome, Be a Bean followers. Today on Who's on Deck, we are speaking with Coach Glen Pecoraro, head coach at Prairie Ridge High School in Crystal Lake. After graduating from University of Illinois, Chicago, he began his coaching career under Hall of Fame coach Greg Wickeriak. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Wickeriak, okay, yep. At Marion Central. That was 91 through 94, and from 94 to 97, he continued at Crystal Lake Central under Jay Sargent and became the head coach at PR in 97-98. 90 of his players played college baseball, including 30 D1 and 7 professional players, including 2 MLB, with 17 players continuing on as high school or college coaches. Coach Peck is the 2014 Area Coach of the Year, Northwest Herald Coach of the Year for 2002, 2006, 2014. He is a 2020 IHSBCA, that's Illinois High School Baseball Coaches Association, Hall of Fame inductee. His record after 19 years as head coach is 473 and 262. Quite a resume there, Coach. Essentially, considering the competition in the Fox Valley Conference, tell us one of the funniest stories you have from baseball.
Funniest stories? Oh, I don't know. Coach Dean and I, when Coach Dean, who's now head coach at Crystal Lake Central, was our pitching coach, and we were both so competitive. There'd be numerous times when he and I coached together that we'd be going at it right in front of the dugout about a pitching decision or about a situational decision, whether it was offense or pitching, almost to the point where we'd be screaming at each other and the next pitch would be thrown and we'd always be right back in the moment. And whatever we just went after each other about would be forgotten and we'd be right back in the game. So I guess it's funny to me that he and I were able to do that so often, as competitive as we both were.
Yeah. Well, there's quite a few Northern Illinois high school teams that are very competitive. Who would you say is PR's consistently toughest or biggest rival?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Obviously, all the Fox Valley Conference schools with our 3-game series, I mean, those are absolute battles day in and day out. Probably, obviously Crystal Lake South, Crystal Lake Central, and Cary Grove, just because we know each other so well and we're all District 155 schools. But geez, we've had battles with Jacobs and Huntley and all the other schools over the years, McHenry. So I would say, man, that's tough. But I would probably say that the District 155 schools are definitely our rivals. And then non-conference, I'd say probably Grays Lake Central and Mundelein, because we've had so many big games in the state tournament against those two teams.
Well, today's topic is about mental approaches up at the plate. Do you have a favorite mentor or guru that you go to? Or that you like to read or blog with?
Man, there's so many good ones out there. I really like Steve Springer. He's one of my favorites because he talks so much about mentality, as much or more than he talks about mechanics and just having the confidence when you go to the plate. I use Coach Bello a lot. I think Coach Bello is one of the best hitting coaches in our area, and he and I discuss a lot of things when it comes to approach and when it comes to hitting. And shoot, there's so many good ones on Twitter. But probably the guy that I use the most is Steve Springer. And again, Coach Bello and I hash things back and forth all the time.
Now, some people talk about it as a hitting approach, and some people talk about it as a mental approach. Is there a difference? And if there is, what is it?
Well, I think mental approach, you're talking about just the overall game of baseball. So I think the ability to deal with failure, the ability to have a routine that you go to, when it hits the fan and things aren't going well, whether you have to execute a pitch or whether you need to put together a good at-bat. So I think there's a routine that guys, we talk about with our guys all the time, that they need to have, a defensive routine, a hitting routine, and a pitching routine, and use it often. Be consistent with it because it's going to hit the fan, and when it does, being able to go to that routine is going to be able to calm you down, slow the game down, relax you, and be able to execute or whatever the next task is, whatever the next opportunity is. But as far as hitting approach goes, there's things we work on every single day. But that hitting approach has a lot to do with who we're facing that day, what the program tendencies are. Do they pitch in? Do they pitch primarily all the way? Do they like to get ahead with their breaking ball? Are they primarily attacking with the fastball? So our approach is going to have a lot to do with what pitcher we're seeing that day. And that can change. I mean, I remember we see a kid from Cary Grove a few years ago that was primarily a fastball kid. He was a mid-high 80s kid, and then we saw him his senior year, and he was primarily breaking ball, and he used the fastball to set up the breaking ball. So I think it changes, and it can change from pitcher to pitcher. And you got to have a plan. I think you go in with a plan. You use your charts that you had from the previous season or the previous games. You formulate a plan. And then sometimes by the second inning, you know what? Trash that plan. We got to change what we're doing. Guys, this guy's coming at you with primarily breaking ball now, so we better hunt the breaking ball, because if we don't, it's going to be a long day. So it can change on a daily basis, not to mention an inning-by-inning basis. You know, if we're going to generalize it, things we talk about and things we practice all the time is in a positive pitch count. You're hunting the fastball. Your job is to be on time or be early with the fastball. And a negative pitch count, where there's a 2-strike count, is what we're normally talking about. See it deep, follow off lots of pitches, and when he makes a mistake, make him pay for it. The more pitches you can see, the sooner that's going to get that starter out of the game. And normally at the high school level, the guy that comes in relief is not as good as the starter.
Yeah.
So we'd like to get to that bullpen.
So do you teach a standard approach or standard preparation for a player from pregame to dugout to on deck to in the up at the plate?
A standard approach, I wouldn't say that. I let them create their own individual routines. I think it's important for them to have something that's theirs. But things that we do talk about is when that opposing pitcher starts warming up in the bullpen, are you doing your homework? Are you seeing his release point? Are you seeing his breaking ball? Is he throwing the breaking ball for a strike? Is he throwing in, or is he primarily throwing all the way? Does it look like he's trying to elevate to set up his breaking ball? So I want these guys making sure that they have a bat in their hand and they are taking note of what that pitcher is doing in the bullpen, so that when they get to the plate, they have some kind of a plan formulated. As well as when they're in the hole and in the on-deck circle, I'll always say to them, hey, are you doing your homework? With 2 strikes, this kid just threw 3 breaking balls in a row with 2 strikes. So with 2 strikes, you have to be anticipating it's probably a breaking ball. That's his out pitch, so make sure you know that. So, again, I use that all the time with our guys. Doing your homework. Are you paying attention to the guys that come up before you? And are you paying attention when he's in the bullpen, doing your planning?
Do you teach anything as far as pitch recognition or situational awareness, or is it primarily the situational awareness coming from the third base coach or whoever's given the signs for the day?
We work on hitting behind the runner every day. We work on hit and run every day. They have to be able to put a barrel on a ball that's not necessarily near the strike zone, because we want to hit and run as often as possible to get the defense moving and open up holes. We work on hitting the ball the other way. So that situational part with a runner on second and nobody out, hitting the ball to the right side. We work on that every single day. Other things we work on, if we're facing a kid that's 88 to 90, like a Priester, a 90 to 92 or 91 to 90, we're going to work on close bullpens and having our pitchers throw to us from 50 feet away. So we're working on seeing that ball that's in your kitchen in a hurry, and we got to be quick with our barrel. Or we move ourselves up. We do what's called a 3-plate drill that I learned from one of my former players, Nick Hall, who was a coach at St. Francis a few years ago. A 3-plate drill where the kids have to move up. Every time they get 2 pitches, they have to move up 3 feet. So the timing is constantly changing with that 3-plate drill. We use that with our Iron Mike all the time, just to challenge these kids' ability to hit velo. And I think it's important to work on hitting velo, because what it does is it slows the game down. And I think the ball looks bigger the more times you see that velocity. And then with if we're talking about pitch recognition with the breaking ball, we talk about, is it coming up out of the hand on the way up, or is it coming out of the hand on the way down? If it's a breaking ball and it's above the eyes, it's probably going to be a strike. Sit in your legs and see it. If it's a breaking ball and it comes below your eyes, it's probably going to be in the dirt. See it deep, let it travel, let it go. So we work on that all the time with some other curveball drills mixed in. But I think the velo training and the learning how to recognize breaking ball, I mean, you just can't do enough of that stuff at the high school level.
Yeah, Coach Springer talks about different approaches as far as aggressive, passive, relaxation, mental imagery. Do you teach any of that stuff, or
the reading part? Reading is so important that those kids have that as part of their routine with everything they do, whether it's pitching, hitting. and defense, that breathing has to be as part of their routine. That
Yeah.
breathing slows the heart rate, and it slows the games down for the kids.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as sniper breathing.
100%. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
So,
Yep.
do you have any taglines or acronyms or things that they use to recognize when they're in different mental states?
Well, I use all the time. I just take my hands and I go like this before they get in the box, which that means that they know they got to slow down, they got to breathe. They want to make sure that they execute or enter the box with great body language. We call it getting big, which I stole from Brian Cain because he talks about that with his MMA guys entering the arena with great body language. And even if you're not feeling that, to fake it. He talks about faking it till you make it. So going to that box, demonstrating that you have your chest out, you have great body language, and sometimes you can just fake yourself before you go in the box. Other acronyms we use, this is the stuff we try to use on a daily basis. For our pitchers, we use 1PW, which I stole from that high school coach out in Iowa that wrote that book, One Pitch Warrior. Yeah. We use 1PW all the time just to execute one pitch at a time. I use base 2 with the team all the time. Base 2 standing for create the big inning, answer back, score first, extend the lead, score with 2 outs. We use that every day. QAB, obviously, you guys know quality at bat, so we discuss what a quality at bat looks like. And then stuff I use all the time, pitchers, attack the glove, hitters, keep it simple, be on time.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things we use pretty consistently.
How much influence do you really think you have as a coach on that mental approach that they have?
I think you have a lot. When I was a young coach, I was volatile. I screamed a lot. I was demonstrative. Definitely my first time around as a head coach. And I would say the last 8 to 10 years, that's changed. I try to have positive body language even when things aren't going well. Try to challenge the kids. Let's say we're not doing well, we're getting beat up one game. Hey, forget about the score. Let's just focus on winning this inning. If we can win this inning, that'll get us some momentum and going into the next inning. So for myself, I've come a long way from where I was as a player and a young coach to being the coach I am today, whereas I just try to stay even keel, poker face the entire game, get excited when the boys need to see me be excited. But I really try to limit anything I do negatively, whether it's something I say to a kid, a player, or even in the huddle. I want to stay as positive as possible.
Is there anything in particular that you do when you have a struggling hitter?
Yeah, definitely. Care less, I tell him. That's Steve Springer right there. Care less. When you go to the plate, I want you to go to the plate like you don't give a damn about anything. Just swing hard. See it and hit it. I think when kids get into a funk, they care too much. Their anxiety is building up. They feel like they're not seeing the ball at all. So my big thing is care less, be free and easy at the plate, see it and hit it. We talk about being on time or early. So in a positive pitch count, you know you're getting a fastball, take your best hack. And then if a kid continues to struggle, you know, coaching a game as long as you have, it's usually because a kid's pulling off and he's not seeing the ball. So we go back to tee work going oppo, forcing the kid to see the ball to the bat, see the ball longer. And a lot of times that will get him out of the funk. Who was it? Jim Lefevre, I remember saying years ago when he was with the Cubs, when I got a hitter that's struggling, we go on the field and we work on hitting ground balls with the opposite second. So the second baseman, if you're a right-hand hitter, the shortstop, if you're a left-hand hitter, just to get a kid to see the ball longer before he pulls the trigger. And that's always been something I've used.
Well, if there's one takeaway from talking today, what would you pass on to coaches and players?
Got an hour? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I wrote some things down here because there's so much, but as a coach and as a player, you have to be patient because certain kids will develop at a slower rate, but once they get it, they got it. And as a young coach, I used to categorize kids, he either mentally tough or he's mentally weak. And I never thought that they could develop into a tough kid or a competitor. And I have proved myself wrong. My players have proved me wrong year after year. So be patient, I think. We talk about the little things every single day. Got to get bunts down, dirt ball reads, hit the cutoff man, hit by pitches, win the freebie war. All those little things we talk about every single day. Never, ever discuss winning and losing. Ever. Until the season's over.
Yeah.
Talk about winning efforts, which I learned from Coach Bello. We never talk about our record. We never talk about individual statistics ever. All we talk about is quality at bat chart and our quality pitching chart. We never talk about individual stats because I try to stress to the kids, if our team does well and we have a good season, a good competitive season, and we go long in the state tournament, more players will get recognized. If you focus on individual stats, when you come up in a moment, you are not going to do what's best for our team. So our kids nor our coaches are ever allowed to talk about winning and losing and individual stats.
That's good. That's good. Well, takeaways I've gotten today, see if I've captured them all, and you can add into them. You talked about breathing. You talked about some head work and how you can help with the players. You talk about relaxation. I like the term where you say care less,
Yep.
you know, because you got to be in the moment. And I'm a big advocate, as a lot of other coaches are, for that one pitch warrior, one working on this pitch. That one didn't matter. The one coming is off in the future. We're working on this pitch. That kind of works in the field too.
Focus on the process. That's something I didn't say, but I had down. Do we talk about our kids all the time? If we're taking care of the process, winning and losing no longer matters.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, we're probably going to be better for it if we focus on the process.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate you taking your time to talk with us today. One thing that I've always been impressed with the coaches in the area is how much they speak with each other, giving information backward and forth. And even when you go off to play tournaments and things, if your team is out of it, you're giving Coach Bello or one of the other
100%.
All the information you have, and it's all it just shows some servant leadership, and it shows some that the kids come first, and I think people appreciate it, and I think it's one of the reasons why you're in the Hall of Fame for the Illinois High School Baseball Coaches Association.
You stick around long enough, they feel sorry for you. Well, thanks, Coach Mellon. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too, and maybe we'll be able to do it again in the future.
That'd be great.
Are you looking for future leadership development? Are you ready to take your team to the next level, to perform at a level they never thought possible? Let's build better communications and connections to gain better commitment and caring together. Check out beabean.net for workshops, speaking engagements, and consultations. Be a Bean, transform your team.